Iranian military commanders are reportedly complaining that U.S. soldiers are taking too long to deploy, saying we can't wait any longer. You guys, the war in Iran is going so well. Trump told me that he's won 20 times, but apparently now we need to risk the lives of 2,500, maybe 7,500, because apparently 5,000 more U.S. troops have been approved for amphibious operations in Iran. We have to now, I guess, risk all these troops' lives for something that U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham is now describing will be the Iwo Jima of the Iran war. Keep in mind, 6,900 U.S. troops died in Iwo Jima. So maybe this is some predictive programming for all of you. Have an understanding of what we're getting into. There's going to be a lot of U.S. troop fatalities if we do this. He's directly advocating for the seizure of Karg Island. Let's take a listen.
Running out of money. So here's what I tell President Trump. Keep it up for a few more weeks. Take Karg Island, where all of the resources they have to produce oil. Control that island. Let this regime die on a vine.
Is this going to, though, take Karg Island? Is it going to involve U.S. troops on the ground? Let me just read you something.
I don't know.
Oh, how stupid are these? What show is this? Fox News Sunday. Is taking Karg Island going to involve U.S. troops on the ground? Well, you know, maybe that's actually an apt question, because maybe they won't actually make it to the ground. Maybe they'll get, these U.S. troops will get clipped by the IRGC Aerospace Forces by a Sedgel missile as they are trying to sail up the Strait of Hormuz. I talked about this with Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar, retired. He said that there's also a possibility that maybe you get a contingency that lands in Prince Sultan Air Base and try to send them over on a ship from the Saudi coastline. But as we know, I mean, there is a large ship. There's like a destroyer that's traveling. It landed in Singapore a few days ago. Now it's making its way to the region. So I'd imagine that they're probably going to try to do some sort of a sailing up the Strait of Hormuz. They're also doing, the U.S. Air Force has been doing what they call precision strikes on the coastline of Iran with the intent that, you know, this is somehow going to soften the landing of the U.S. Marines as they try to make their way up the Strait of Hormuz and to Karg Island. So yeah, maybe this is a good question. Will this involve U.S. troops on the ground? Possibly. They may not make it to the ground.
The Atlantic does an assessment on that. They say U.S. troops may well take Karg Island. We believe their ability to do so, but only to endure ballistic missile strikes, drone attacks, petrochemical smoke, all without a reliable means of obtaining logistical support. The result could be a grinding war of attrition. They talk about how far away.
That's such a positive characterization. Leave it to the Atlantic to give you such a positive spin on the idea of taking Karg Island. The results could be a grinding war of attrition. No, the results could be, I mean, yeah, I guess they could be a grinding war of attrition. But no, really, the results could be they don't even make it there and they all end up dead. Why are we doing this? Let's just accept defeat, right? Trump can come out, claim victory and whatnot. We know it's a defeat. Just accept that and let's stop with putting our young boys and girls in a position where we know how it's going to end. How about that?
They would be from resupply.
I'm sort of tired of all this armchair quarterbacking. This has been amazing military.
He's tired of armchair quarterbacking as he sits in a Washington, D.C. TV studio advocating that we send 3,500 U.S. troops up the Strait of Hormuz to an indefensible island that you can walk across in 45 minutes with no mountains, no hilly terrain. I mean, you're just wide out in the open. You're sitting duck waiting there, the closest possible you can be to Iranian missiles. I don't know what is, you know, whatever he said, backseat driving, Monday morning quarterbacking than to be Lindsey Graham right now.
Operation. God bless the fallen.
But it's a difference when we talk about troops on the ground.
I trust the Marines, not that guy. I trust DOD. We got 2 Marine expeditionary units sailing to this island. We did Iwo Jima. We can do this. The Marines, my money is always on the Marines. I don't know if you take the island or you blockade the island, but I know this. The day we control that island, this regime, this terrorist regime, has been weakened. It will die on a vine. And here's what I want to do. I want to give get with Chris.
Goes without saying, almost 7,000 U.S. troops died in Iwo Jima. So I guess that's, a good bar as to what we can expect from this idea of taking Karg Island. Also worth noting, Lindsey Graham is acting like Karg Island is going to be the end-all be-all to ending this war. It's not. Iran has many alternatives. They have land transfer of oil. They have ship-to-ship at sea transfer of oil. The U.S. literally has been fantasizing about taking Karg Island for decades. If you play, video games with this sort of map in it, they literally have the maps in the video games of like U.S. forces storming Karg Island. So this is something that the Iranians have obviously known is, a dream of the U.S. for a long time, and they've prepared for it. Also, this is really, it's just, what are we going to do there? We're going to get them there, and then what? Talking about it as if it's like the end all be all. I mean, if it's the end all be all, why didn't we do this on the first day of the conflict? If Karg Island is what we needed to end this war, why didn't we do this on the first day of the conflict? Why do we have to have 13 U.S. troops killed? Why didn't we do it at the start?
I want to sprint to peace. As the war winds down, I want peace to ramp up. The reason we don't have Saudi Arabia and Israel making peace is October the 7th, 2023.
All right, Zionist jibber jabber. Trump had this to say this morning.
How will it operate? Well, I may have a plan or I may not, but how would I ever say that to a reporter? If I said that to...
Every time he says, I may do it, I may not do it, he usually does it. How would I say that to a reporter? I'd never tell you. He usually does it, right? And this is what he's done thus far. So Trump has announced yesterday that he is considering winding down the war on Iran. At 3:43 p.m. Eastern time, he said, I don't want to do a ceasefire with Iran. At 5:13 p.m., he said, we're considering winding down the war with Iran. So that goes to show just how schizophrenic his thinking is regarding all of this. Trump is preparing for a ceasefire to limit Iran's missile and nuclear programs. That was reported on Fox. Reality, Iran is launching its heaviest airstrikes thus far on Dimona, Israel, the home of the Zionist nuclear program. So just keep in mind, as Trump is saying that, he's considering winding down the war with Iran because with respect to the terrorist regime of Iran, it's our greatest military achievement. We have so many victories and achievements. We're winning so much. Here are the victories and achievements thus far. Iranian missiles are still raining down everywhere. The Iranian nuclear program is still strong. Iran's government is still in place. Khamenei was replaced with Khamenei. Iran's Supreme National Security Council is now led by a hardliner, likely Saeed Jalili. The Strait of Hormuz is fully controlled by Iran. The U.S. Air Force and Navy have been exposed as a paper tiger. We'll talk about that more in a second. U.S. bases are still getting obliterated. In fact, today it was announced that the U.S. and NATO forces are entirely withdrawing from the Victoria base in Baghdad, Iraq, which is our largest base there. That's not even because of Iranian strikes. That's because of Iraqi resistance, pro-Iran Iraqi resistance strikes. So we're in the process of evacuating Baghdad. Yemen's Red Sea faces an imminent shutdown from Ansar Allah. Iranians of all political stripes are unified behind the flag right now. Israel's still getting hit hard by Iranian missiles. Last night, we saw the largest strikes yet on Arad and Dimona, which is the home of Israel's nuclear program. The U.S. and NATO have done partial withdrawals from other U.S. bases in the region. Saudi Arabia, for example, Prince Sultan, they had to move stuff to Jordan. They've done some partial withdrawals from Erbil and the Kurdistan region of Iraq as well. Several U.S. Air Force jets have been blown up. We've seen F-15s shot out of the sky, F-35 hit in the sky and damaged. Pilot was injured. We saw one KC-135 knocked out of the sky by a 358 loitering missile. That was probably done by the Iraqi resistance as well, not done by the Iranians, despite the fact that that's an Iranian-produced surface-air missile. We've seen that one more KC-135 refueling tanker was partially damaged. The tail was damaged. It landed at Ben Gurion Airport. shortly after the other KC-135 went down in the Iraqi desert in western Iraq. We had 5 other KC-135s which were damaged, and in some cases destroyed at the Prince Sultan Air Base. What else have we seen happen? I mentioned the F-35. We've had some Allied jets go down. I think there was like an Emirati jet that went down, or there was a Kuwaiti helicopter that went down. So, yeah, that's not going well. U.S. financial assets have been blown up all across the Gulf. Oil prices have hit a high of 119 and continue to rise back and forth. F-35, we talked about that. 13 U.S. soldiers have been killed and around 240 plus injured as a result of these Iranian attacks. Trump's poll numbers have reached a record low. You can fact check that. Go to Real Clear Politics and you'll see an average that people always like, oh, this poll says that poll says that. If you want to see the average of all of the official U.S. polls on President Trump, or anything for that matter, go to Real Clear Politics or Real Clear Polling, and they do an average of all the polls, pro-Republican, lean Democrat, and they put them in a giant average. He has the lowest average poll ratings of any time in his presidency right now. Air defenses across the Gulf region are completely gone. 10%, because we had more today and yesterday. 10+% of the entire MQ-9 Reaper drone fleet have been destroyed. 3 to 4 of the only 10 in existence ANTYP-2 radars for our coveted THAAD air defense systems are gone. Our $1+ billion early warning radar was destroyed in Qatar. The U.S. Navy 5th Fleet Command HQ is gone in Bahrain. USS Gerald R. Ford caught fire and departed for Greece. And the USS Abraham Lincoln was struck and fled 1,000 kilometers away. So I don't know. Are we winning? Do we have historic achievements? Is this going well? Is this what victory looks like? I think not. And I think that acting like we're somehow going to have a stroke of good luck by sending 2,500 plus U.S. Marines to Karg Island and suddenly our odds are going to change, I think that is probably the most ludicrous thing of all, but that appears to be exactly where we are headed in this war. In fact, Iranian military commanders are reportedly complaining that U.S. soldiers are taking too long to deploy, saying we can't wait any longer. Never met a people like them. 57% of Americans say the Iran war is going very or somewhat badly for the U.S. Well, I'm sure Trump is going to be wishing and dreaming that he could have that 57% disapproval number of the war by the time that this operation on Karg Island results in we all know it's going to be a disaster, because the numbers are going to be way worse after that. God